Hi everyone, I just wanted to record a hopefully helpful video for landlords and prospective landlords who are looking to increase their property portfolio. So what this video is about is your 9 top tips on your next buy-to-let, what you should be looking for. So tip number 1 is the yield versus capital growth way up. So it doesn't need to be an either or decision, but in Essex particularly, you need to think about what you're looking for in the long term, because yields aren't as high here as in some other areas, and there are also parts of Essex where the property market has enjoyed a lot of capital growth in recent years, and it looks like it's kind of levelling out a little bit, especially in light of the coronavirus crisis. So if you'd like an expert opinion on a property, you're not sure how it's looking in terms of yield, you can go on our website and there's a yield calculator on there, or you can give me a call and I'm quite happy to have a look at any deals for you and just weigh up the pros and cons. Ultimately, think about your long-term goals, because if you're looking at short-term, month-to-month income, you might pick a different property to if you're looking at ultimately capital growth in the long term. If you're looking at buying and holding for 10 plus years, then obviously you'll be focusing on a capital growth property. The second tip is get it at the right purchase price. So make sure that if possible you can buy it below market value. That might mean befriending some local estate agents in the areas that you're looking to buy. It might also mean auctions or just a strong negotiation. You know, go in with the figures, know exactly how much you're willing to pay and how much you're looking to spend on the property, and really stick to your guns on the purchase price, because if you overspend at purchase, your yield is going to be ultimately lower. Tip number 3 is location. In terms of the fundamentals for rental properties, location is more important in some ways than properties that you're selling, because tenants will always be attracted to properties with the right fundamentals, close to transport links, close to schools, good local employment. So you're going to have fewer void periods and more tenant demand if you get the location spot on. Tip number 4 is know your tenant pool. Again, know the kind of tenant that you're appealing to when you're looking at buying a property. If you're looking at renting to young families, then think about the kind of property they might like. And similarly, if you're looking at renting to a young family, you're not going to buy a 1-bedroom property. If you'd like to aim it at maybe older tenants, then a 1-bedroom property is ideal for you. So have a think about who you want to rent to and look to appeal to that target market. Tip number 5, watch your spending. I've seen a lot of landlords do a refurbishment and really massively overspend on what they're doing to the property. You don't need to have all the best kitchen equipment. You don't need to have a Bosch oven in your rental property, because ultimately your repair costs are going to be higher, and the lifespan of appliances and equipment that you leave in a rental property, including things like carpets and worktops, the lifespan is going to be shorter than on a property that you were to buy. So don't necessarily cheap out, but don't also feel like you've got to spend the top whack on everything that you put into the property. Just kind of find a middle ground that works for you, that's not splashing out, but also remembering that it's a business. Tip number 6, think about gardens. Tenants don't always maintain gardens as well as homeowners. So really you're probably going to want to go for a smaller, easily maintainable garden for a tenant, or you can build it into your contract that garden maintenance is something that you arrange and it comes as an additional cost to the tenant as part of their rent. But have a think about what your target market again are looking for, because if it's young couples, young professional couples who want to live near to a station for work, then probably just a small patio or decked area with space for a barbecue and a couple of chairs will be fine. A 75-foot lawn that they need to mow every 2 weeks in the summer is not really going to appeal, or if it does, then I would say that you're going to struggle to get them to maintain it because it's a lot of work. Tip number 7 is future-proof your property. If you're buying an older property, just be aware that it's probably going to introduce a lot of cost to your portfolio. especially now with the new EICR electrical check requirements. Older properties, notoriously, the wiring is not as reliable. There's lots that can go wrong, older properties with the brickwork, the structure, the electrics, heating and plumbing. So just make sure that you've given it a really good once over if you are buying an older property, or look at new builds or newer builds if you want something that's going to be really low maintenance. Tip number 8, always think about your exit strategy. Whilst you're buying buy to let, it's great to think about the purchase and building the portfolio, but there may come a point when you might want to sell. So if it's a property that you know is going to be a thorn in your side if you ever want to sell it, double check what your target market for selling is going to be, because you might find that you're stuck with a property at the end of the day when you'd like to offload it. And tip number 9, always be aware of your obligations and the legal side of renting. So make sure that you tick off all of your landlord obligations. There's so much legislation now that if you get something wrong at the start, it can really come and bite you on the bum later with a tenant, and the costs can potentially spiral. There are fines that you can be liable for, and obviously tenant safety should be a huge factor for you. So make sure you're aware of all the safety requirements, make sure you're aware of all your legal obligations, and just cover your back as a landlord. Be a professional. Remember that it's a business and treat it as your business, and you can't go wrong. As ever, if you need any advice or you just want me to look over a property that you're thinking about buying, I'm more than happy to get involved. I love talking about property and love talking about rentals, so I'd be happy to help. I hope to hear from some of you. Any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll answer them shortly.